everyone, and thanks for being with us here on News 12, where local matters. I'm Amanda Bossard, and this is Ask the Mayor. It's a pleasure to be back here with you for the next half hour as we give you a unique opportunity to ask Mayor Eric Adams your questions right here on the air. The number to dial, 718-861-6800. It will be on the bottom of your screen throughout the program for reference. And before we begin, we do want to get to some of the headlines of the past week or so. A single men's shelter with more than 2,000 beds coming to Mott Haven, and neighbors are not happy about it, and elected officials, some are outraged. News 12's Lindsay Tanney has the latest from the site, the plan, and the opposition.
The Bronx should not have to bear the brunt of this ongoing crisis.
The migrant crisis, something the mayor says is getting better. Numbers are down, but now thousands of beds are being placed in this building to house single migrant men.
I am absolutely opposed to this proposal. I do not want a HERC. I don't care what we call it. I don't want any project of this magnitude to bring 2,200 beds into a building here in our borough.
The mayor's office says they can't confirm the exact address of the migrant shelter due to safety concerns, but multiple elected officials have said that it's going to be at this building right behind me on East 141st Street and Bruckner Boulevard, a building that's actually zoned for manufacturing.
Let's use that large site in the South Bronx and repurpose it for manufacturing jobs that are good paying jobs that provide stability for individuals.
The area is industrial. People who work at the auto shop across the street say the shelter will bring unwanted traffic and clog up the street.
It's gonna go crazy when it opens. It's gonna be bad.
Community Board 1 is hosting a meeting about the shelter on January 27th. In Mott Haven, Lindsay Tanney, News 12 The Bronx.
Thank you so much. Right now, though, we are very happy to welcome back to our studios tonight New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Great to have you here with us once again.
Great to be here. And you know, I was just listening to the borough president talk about the site, the new site that we're open. As we successfully, we have downsized from over 220,000, 180,000 are taking the next step on their journey. And no matter what location we go to, I don't have any elected official that's raising their hands and say, bring it here, bring it here, bring it here. Our team knew how challenging this was, and we told all of our electeds, we should all be advocating Washington should not have done this to New York City.
Why was the Bronx specifically chosen for this
shelter? Because it was a large location where we were able to accommodate all of the needs. We're going to have service providers there. We're going to have setups where we can give people the right to learn how to get their rights to go into employment. Everything is going to be centralized instead of having these scattered locations that will cost us more, duplications of services, duplication of personnel. This is a centralized way. We had to close Randall's Island. We had to close that down. They had over 2,000 people that were there. And so this is a centralized location, and we're going to have the resources there. Law enforcement is going to be assisting. Other professionals are going to be assisting us, and nonprofits. This is a small way as we start to continue to bring down the number of migrants and asylum seekers.
I want to expand on the topic of the migrant crisis and specifically what a lot of people are talking about, the potential ICE raids that this new presidential administration has warned of. We've already seen some action underway in other cities. Boston today, I believe the Newark mayor over in New Jersey just confirmed that there was some action in his city. As of right now, do you know of any specific immigration enforcement that is happening in the 5 boroughs?
What preliminary information we received strictly dealt with those with criminal behavior in the city. I've been extremely clear for some time now that working class people, no matter documented or undocumented, should have the ability to pursue the American dream. But those who are committing violent acts in our city and cities should be held accountable, and they should not be in our cities. You violate your right to be here in the country. If you are inflicting violence on not only everyday New Yorkers, but migrants and asylum seekers. We get and receive complaints of those who are being abusive to those who are migrants and asylum seekers as well.
Any idea how many arrests as of right now have been conducted in the city?
No, we don't. We don't have the exact number of arrests. There were not any large-scale operations in the city. And, you know, there's so much anxiety that is taking place now You know, we're still reading through the executive orders, but we're clear. People should have their children go to school. They should use the medical facilities if needed, and if they should call law enforcement if they're the victim of a crime. We want people to understand that they should continue to use those services that the city have available.
With that message in mind, a lot of the conversation has been surrounding those sensitive locations, schools, churches, hospitals. Now, the Trump administration has rolled back prior protections that kept ICE agents from making arrests at those locations. You're saying it's okay, carry on as normal. What gives you the confidence to send that message to immigrant communities right now?
Well, a couple of things. This is so important. The immigration is a federal issue. It's not a city issue. The cities don't deal with immigration. That's a mistake we made in the past. It cost us $6.9 billion because the federal government pushed their responsibility on the cities, not only New York, Chicago, Denver, Boston, and others. And the federal government must address this issue. My federal lawmakers must address this issue, as well as the White House must come together to address real immigration reform. So this is not coming at the cost of New Yorkers and other large cities across America. And what we're doing here, we're telling New Yorkers, continue to utilize those services. We don't have any reports of going into churches, going into schools, going into any other facilities. There are no reports that are coming from that. But the federal government must make the policies that are going to happen across the country when it comes to immigration.
And speaking to those varying levels of government that are all focused on this one issue right now, I should say. The DOJ today released guidance saying that if local officials in sanctuary cities do not follow the federal policy, that they could be at risk of prosecution. New York, of course, a sanctuary city. So right now, what is your message to city officials? Follow the city law or the federal policy?
And that is so important. And we have been meeting with our teams. We have met with the city council. We've met with all of my senior leadership, and we've had conversations. I cannot do anything that is going to place city employees in jeopardy. If the federal government is stating that you cannot interfere with the actions, we can't do anything that is going to jeopardize city employees, and we're going to make sure we read through all the executive orders. The Corporation Council is reading through them to be very clear on what can be done and what cannot be done. It is so important. As I say over and over again, the ink is not even dry on these executive orders, and people are responding to them. Let's first allow the Corporation Council and our legal teams to read over so we can give clear direction to city employees to make sure that they are following whatever rules and won't expose them to any form of jeopardy. We need to read through these executive orders and fully understand what they're saying, what our authorizations may be, and what they are not.
I want to expand on some other local issues that we've been covering as of late here on News 12, specifically the streak of fires that we've seen here in the Bronx impacting hundreds of families, forcing them out of their homes because vacate orders are issued on those buildings after the fact. We've been hearing stories that the hotel stays are expiring. It's either go to a shelter or no other option. Are there any other resources that the city can provide for long-term help for these families that are impacted by disaster that is out of their control?
Yes, so traumatizing. I recall at the beginning of my administration, we had the terrible fire in the Bronx where we lost many New Yorkers, and being displaced by fires is extremely traumatizing. You know, as a child, our house went through a fire, and we had to move out, and our neighbors took us in for months, almost 6 or 7 months. And so I know how traumatizing it is personally. And what the city has done in the last fire, where there was a large number of displacements, we extended the hotel stay several times. But we can't keep doing that. And so in this city, everyone has a right to shelters. And we will make sure that there are shelters that are provided for people. We're asking people to reach out to family members. We're asking people to reach out to your neighbors. This is a moment when New Yorkers must step up and help those who are in need. That's what happened when I was a child, and we're asking New Yorkers to do that once again. But there's always going to be a shelter system. They can enroll in the shelter system, but we can't continue to extend what we have done already on the hotel stays.
I think we hear from a lot of the tenants, well, there are a lot of new affordable housing buildings that are going up across the borough. Why not use some of those? Is there a reason why those are not accessible in these situations?
I cannot even tell you the urgency of housing, the housing need. We have thousands of people already in our shelter system. The need of housing is why we passed City of Yes, and why we're going to continue to say we have to build more to accommodate those needs.
Okay, the conversation just getting started here tonight with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Dial in right now, 718-861-6800, and we're getting to your calls right after this quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Ask the Mayor here on News 12 with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Lovely to have you back here with us, and time to take some callers.
Yes,
you ready?
Love to.
Let's get to Dominique, who's dialed in from Bed-Stuy. Dominique, thanks so much for your call, and what's your question for the mayor this evening?
Hi, Mayor Adams.
How are you, Dominique?
I just want to ask a question. Every day we're seeing more and more people are being hurt on the train. I ride the train every day to work, from work. I do not see a cop on the train, and it's more people on the train now. So, and then I see you saying that the crime is low, is trending down. I don't see where the crime is trending down and where the cops are if they're on the platform. On the platform is not helping us when we're in the tunnel.
So think about this for Dominique. We have on our subway system 4.6 million riders a day. 4.6 million. We have an average of 6 felonies a day out of those 4.76 million riders. And what we must do, we're losing the battle of how people feel. We've done a good job with the officers of bringing down crime. The battle we've lost is these high-profile incidents, someone being burnt on a train to death, someone being pushed to the tracks, these random acts of violence. And so you're right. You're saying, Eric, I don't feel safe, and I agree with you. So what did we do this week? We're rolling out an additional number of cops. We're assigning them to ride the trains and walk through the trains. We're having them be more engaging with the passengers, because you're right with the visibility. That's what I hear when I'm in the subway system. Eric, we want to see the visibility of the uniform. You know what's interesting? Someone stopped me the other day when I was in the subway system, and they said, we have too many cops down here. I feel like I'm being harassed because there are too many cops in the subway system. I say it all the time. 8.3 million New Yorkers, 35 million opinions. I must find that sweet spot. And I believe the right spot is having police officers in the system, and I'm going to continue to do everything possible to make that happen.
Oftentimes when we're talking about crime in the transit system, it's tied into mental health struggles and reaching out to those individuals who really need the help. You just announced a new $650 million initiative really focused on supportive housing, I believe. What tangible impacts do you hope that has, and how do you hope to add to some of the other initiatives that you've already launched on this topic?
That's so important, because many times when people think of crime, they think only police. There are 3 levels to our criminal justice system: police officers, judges, lawmakers. Everyone must be working together to deal with that issue. There's a bill we presented to Albany that would deal with involuntary removal, because when I'm in the subway system with our teams from the PATH and the Scouts, these are partnered with mental health professionals, we find people, when you try to give them care, they refuse to take the care. There's not enough authority to give that person the care they need, even in an involuntary fashion. And so all of us must be part of this apparatus. These cops have increased in arrests they've done for violent acts. They are down in the subway system. We know that we want to deal with the perception of crime, but I cannot be more clear. We have 4.6 million people in the subway system. And so I know what the caller just stated. I know how she feels. because I hear that often, we must make people feel safe to match our success in numbers.
Real quick, because you mentioned judges, the governor in her State of the State address pushing for discovery reform on that front.
Yes.
No mention really of bail reform. Do you think that's something that Albany needs to look at this year?
I think the discovery is important. All of our DAs have been talking about it, how we must handle discovery better. And then we should look into recidivism. You know, I think that the lawmakers, they did a good job in dealing with some of the fairness around our criminal justice system. But one area we should focus on is the area of recidivism. Too many people are committing crimes repeatedly, and we need to address those actions.
Okay. Let's get to another caller
Yes.
on the line. We have Monica, who's called in from Soundview this evening. Monica, go ahead and ask your question for the mayor.
I was wondering, instead of making the shelters for the migrants, why you don't make the shelters for the people that has been burned out of their home?
We do, Monica. We have thousands of New Yorkers, not only from fires, but people who have fallen on hard times. They have shelters. There's a shelter system for them as well. This is a right to shelter city, and whomever needs shelter will always find shelter. So yes, we were compelled by our obligation when we received 220,000 migrants and asylum seekers without any real support from the federal government. We were compelled to make sure that they had housing, which has a 30-day and 60-day limit, 30-day for single adults, 60 days for families and children. And many people fought against us for putting a limitation on that, but we knew it was the right thing to do. And because of that, 170, close to 180,000 have moved on to the next step of their journey. But we do have shelters for those who are in fires, those who have fallen on hard times, or those who need a place to stay. That system is currently still in place.
On the topic of shelters, I want to get to a quick question that we got from Keisha on social media before we hit the break. She sent this video in, and I want to pull it up if we can, about the conditions in the shelter that she's living in here in the Bronx. She says that they're living with black mold and that the HRI said that they can't do anything. Hopefully we can see the video there. It seems like the radiator is steaming excessively, and as she pans, you can see the mold. She's living there with her 2 kids, from what we heard. She says, I've employed, she's been here for 8 months and still no voucher. Why?
First of all, we would get that location and look at it, because no matter where you are, you should have a place to live with dignity and respect. So we would get to that location and we would look at it. There's a complete voucher system in place, and we want to look at her case and find out. I don't know all the details of it, but we would find this location. This is unacceptable from what I'm seeing here on the video, and we're going to do everything we can to rectify that situation.
Yeah, you know, I see that radiator and my mind goes back to some of the tragedies
Yes.
we've seen in the city where they explode, and the worst is what happens. So we'll definitely connect you with that information offline. The conversation continues right after this quick break here on News 12. Stay tuned to Ask the Mayor. Welcome back to Ask the Mayor here on News 12 with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Coming off a pretty busy week for you.
Yes,
You were at the inauguration on Monday, and prior to that, you had a meeting with now President Donald Trump. In the comments you made after that meeting, you mentioned you did not talk about your trial, but what caught my eye in that statement was that you did talk about manufacturing opportunities, specifically in the Bronx. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that conversation and what those could look like if they come to fruition?
No, it's so important when you look at what we were able to accomplish, $100 million into the King's Bridge Armory with Congressman Espaillat and the governor coming in as a partner. That is a great opportunity. Imagine if we turn that into a manufacturing chip company or manufacturing plant where we can make chips for the shortages that we're seeing in chips here in our country. It could feed the entire eastern seaboard, if not the entire country. We could produce here. And there's so many other things as we look at all the manufacturing jobs that are coming here. The Bronx can really be a hub to have a feeder from our public schools, middle schools, colleges, right into these great manufacturing jobs. And so we're looking at the Bronx, and that was part of the conversation, how we can use the Bronx as a place where we can build jobs and opportunities and families.
And I'm sure a lot of Bronxites excited to see that armory space really transformed into a multi-purpose space. So
Yes.
a lot of eyes looking forward to that. I mentioned the inauguration, and I do want to ask, while you were down in D.C., if you had any unexpected or interesting conversations in the area with anyone there.
So many people were there, from sports figures to athletes to entertainers and other electeds across the entire country, and just interacting with them as we talk about the things, affordability, working class people, securing our border, bringing jobs to this country. The American people have spoken. They were very clear on those things that were important to them. And I think it's important for us not to believe it's about us, it's about what the American people want. And I'm looking forward to be working with this administration to deliver resources here back to the city.
In light of you being down in D.C., you did an interview with Tucker Carlson in which you commented that the Democratic Party has left you. Are you at all considering a switch to the Republican Party?
No, I'm a true blue Democrat, but I'm also a true blue column mayor. I think that we need to focus on those issues.
And that will be the focus for the remainder of your term,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Great to have you back
Thank
here
you.
with us. Thank all of you for tuning in. We'll see you next time here on Ask the Mayor.